Hey friends, in this video, I'm going to teach you how to decide when it's time to plant your garden. We're going to learn about first and last frost dates, the two most essential dates you need to know and understand when you grow a garden. So, let's dig in. Hey, if you'd like to get 10% off some great treats for your pets, check out the Grubterra link in the description. My friends at Grubterra make the absolute best black soldier fly larvae for chickens, birds, and reptiles. And they also make excellent treats for your dogs, all while helping the environment. Use the discount code GROWANDBEFruitful to get 10% off all your orders, and you'll also help support this channel. A frost date is the average date of the last light freeze in spring or the first light freeze in fall. These dates are calculated by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration based on the light freeze dates in your area over the past 30 years. A light freeze is 29 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit and will kill tender plants like tomatoes, peppers, and squash. A moderate freeze is 25 to 28 degrees Fahrenheit and will kill almost all vegetation except semi-hardy plants like beets, cabbage, and collards. A severe freeze below 25 degrees Fahrenheit will kill all but the hardiest of plants. It got down below 10 degrees 4 days in a row this winter in my area and killed everything except my onions and garlic. Frost dates are estimates based on what usually happens in your area. They're not 100% accurate because no one but God really knows what the weather's going to do. There's still probably a 30% chance that there may be a late frost after the last frost date in spring or an early frost before the first frost date in the fall. Plus, the frost dates are based on zip codes, and don't consider if your garden is on top of a mountain or at the bottom of a valley. That makes your weather different from everyone else in your area. So you have to take those things into consideration too. Also, frost may form on a plant even when the air temperatures are above freezing, as high as 37 degrees, when moisture in the leaves evaporates and cools the surface of the leaf low enough to produce frost. Still, frost dates are vital information for you to know so you can estimate when the temperatures in your area will go down to those freezing levels or come up above it. And therefore you'll know when it's safe to plant your garden and when temperatures are going to drop back down again, bringing your growing season to a close. You can find your frost dates online at www.almanac.com/gardening/frost dates. I'll leave a link in the description. Determine your growing season by counting the number of days between your last frost date and first frost date. Where I live, my last frost date is April the 9th and my first frost date is October the 30th. That means that I potentially have 203 days in my growing season. So when I choose an annual, I need to make sure it can fully develop and be ready to harvest during that 203-day window. Most plants take between 60 to 90 days to grow from seed to maturity, so that gives me plenty of time to grow them. I could even grow 2 or 3 rotations of most plants if I want. Other plants like sweet potatoes or winter squash could take up to 120 days to mature, and they need warmer temperatures. So I want to be mindful to plant them soon enough that they can mature before the first frost date of fall sets in, but not too soon that the cold weather of early spring still hurts them. So you need to understand the variety of plant that you're trying to grow and how cold weather affects them, you see, because it's not just frost that might kill a plant. Some plants like collards and cabbage can handle a little bit of frost, so you can start them before the frost date comes. Other plants like peppers and sweet potatoes, they don't want any cold at all, so you have to wait well beyond the frost date before you put them in the ground. Understand what you're planting and how the cold temperatures affect it. Another factor to consider is how hot it gets in your area. Some plants cannot stand extreme heat in the middle of summer. Too much heat can make plants like lettuce, carrots, and collards bitter in the summer, even if they survive. Other plants like tomatoes may wither if the temperatures get too hot. So you also have to consider this for your garden if you live in a zone that gets really hot in the summer. It's good to research and to talk to experienced gardeners in your area to learn which plants can handle the heat and which cannot. Plus, you can learn techniques like using shading to protect plants if the weather gets really hot. There are also ways to extend the growing season into the cooler months in early spring or in late fall too. You can use a greenhouse, you could use a cold frame or a hot frame. Either way, knowing your frost dates is important because they're essential markers in the calendar year if you are a gardener. You need to know what they are and you need to understand what they mean, and you need to take that all into consideration along with all of the information you know about the kinds of plants you're trying to grow and what some of the experts in your area are telling you from their years of experience in growing gardens in your area. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 through 8 says, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace." In gardening and in life, it is wise to know the seasons. You won't succeed if you try to harvest when you should be planting. You'll be in big trouble if you try to make peace when you need to be at war, or if you tear when you need to mend. Walk closely with the Lord. Stay in tune to the Holy Spirit. He will show you the times and what you need to do in those times. And then you get out there and you grow and you be fruitful.